Pan-Africanism. It is a broad topic, but it revolves around the quest for a common destiny for all people of African descent. To most, it indicates the need for a society made for Africans, run by Africans, enabling all to reach this destiny, without the oppression and exploitation common for Africans. While Pan-Africanism has mainly been seen creating an influence in the Americas with leaders such as W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey, there were also efforts seen within the continent of Africa itself, where Africans were also fighting for liberation from oppressive and threatening governments. This struggle crept into the culture of Africa. Music was filled with protest and indignation, becoming the soundtrack to unsavory leader after unsavory leader and the average African's attempt to create a life free of constant fear. And no artist was better at fueling these movements than the work of Nigerian Fela Kuti. In 1960, Nigeria gained full independence from British colonial rule, but this did not necessarily heal all of the social problems that ailed the government. And by 1967, the country had fallen back into a civil war. During that time, a Nigerian-born musician named Fela Kuti was in America working on his craft. There, he was exposed to African-American activists such as Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X. When he returned to Nigeria, it was said that he, quote, decided it was time to re-educate and redirect the thinking of the African man, and his subject material for lyrics became increasingly political. He changed the name of his band to the Africa 70, and he began making music in a new genre, which he called Afrobeat. Fela Kuti and the Africa 70s created a sound that caught on very quickly. It was a combination of African highlife and traditional percussion styles, combined with modern jazz and funk music. He and his band, when performing, dressed in traditional clothing and embraced their African heritage. Combined with relevant lyrics in the most commonplace of Nigerian dialects, Kuti and his band started a force that took over the airwaves and minds of people throughout Africa. One of his most powerful songs was Sorrow, Tears, and Blood. It was named after a theory from Ghanaian leader Kwame Nkrumah, who said that the goal in life was to live without fear. His lyrics talk about the various things the Nigerians are fearful of in their lives, implying that their fear results in a poor quality of life. As such, they are not achieving the Pan-African ideal of every African reaching their common destiny of a happy freedom. The lyrics are especially accusatory towards the government, specifically at parts discussing freedom, liberty, and justice.
We've had to fight for freedom. We've had to fight for liberty. We've had to fight for justice. We've had to fight for happiness. We always get reason to fear. We no one die. We no one wound. We no one quench. We no one go. I get one child. My mother for house. My body for house. I won't build a house. I don't build a house.
Fela also made waves for his criticisms of the Nigerian people in the song Colonial Mentality, in which he accuses the culture in Nigeria still to be one heavily influenced by the oppressive colonial rule. Here, instead of addressing his song only toward the ruling powers, he suggests that the people themselves are still living in a colonial mentality, where being slaves, as he puts it, is their norm. He also tells the people that they haven't released themselves from their slavery fully, and they're still subject to the controlling rule of the European colonies. His call to action for Africans in creating their own ideal society is inherently Pan-African, as this requires Africans not to accept the fear and pain constant in their lives.
Colo mentality. So you fit in, never release yourself.
Kuti was regularly unhappy about the dealings of the government, as evidenced by the critical song Zombie. In the lyrics, he likens the oppressive government's soldiers to zombies, obediently following the orders of Kuti's voice in the song.
no go unless you tell him to go. Zombie no go stop unless you tell him to stop. Zombie no go turn unless you tell him to turn. Zombie no go think unless you tell him to think. Zombie, oh zombie.
But what made this song so important in the African society was the cultural phenomenon that this song became. Critic Sam Samuelson said of the song, "Since the groove was so absolutely contagious, it took the nation by storm. People in the street would put on a blank stare and walk with hands afront proclaiming 'Zombie' whenever they would see soldiers. If 'Zombie' caught the attention of the populace, it also caught the attention of the authority figures as the Nigerian government came down on him with absolute brute force not long after the release of this record." Similarly, Kuti playing this song at a stadium in Accra in 1978 caused riots, again causing a threat to the political elite that tried to suppress the riots and oppress the people. He created a type of music in Africa that spoke to the average man's desire to have a free and fearless life, and it resonated even outside his home country of Nigeria, causing riots and inciting political action. Fela Kuti's influence became huge amongst those in Nigeria, Africa, and around the world. Musically, his style of Afrobeat became a genre that people all over the world have tried to emulate, including the Talking Heads, Vampire Weekend, the Soul Jazz Orchestra, and his own son, Femi. More importantly, however, was his political influence. He brought a new voice to the common Nigerian through his music, and his music was a constant but critical voice of hope through difficult political times in Africa. His music's power led him to seek a political career in Nigeria that was ultimately unsuccessful. He was repeatedly jailed for speaking his mind in his music, and his willingness to stand up to the government when others were afraid to was admirable. Nigerian journalist Remi Adekoye, after Kuti's death, said, "For those of us who have experienced the Nigerian government, Fela will forever remain our beloved hero for having had the guts to stand up to those who would treat us as slaves." He once said, "The human spirit is stronger than any government or institution." And he proved it by example. While he died in 1997, Fela's spirit of catchy but still politically motivated music still resonates throughout Nigeria and throughout the world.